He was a man born into fire, a life marked by poverty, violence, and relentless oppression. America tried to silence him, racism tried to break him, prison tried to reform him, but in the end, nothing could stop Malcolm X from discovering the truth. His journey from crime and despair to faith and conviction is one of the most remarkable conversion stories of the 20th century. This is not just the story of Malcolm Little, the hustler, not just the story of Malcolm X, the fiery revolutionary. This is the story of Hajj Maliki al-Shabazz, the man who embraced Islam, the faith that transformed his soul and left an unshakable legacy for the world. Malcolm was born Malcolm Little in 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska, into a world already hostile to his existence. His father, Earl Little, was a Baptist preacher who admired Marcus Garvey and spoke boldly about black pride and independence. His mother, Louise, was from the Caribbean, a strong woman who instilled discipline in her children. But Malcolm's childhood was shattered by racism long before he understood the meaning of the word. The family faced constant threats from white supremacist groups. Their house was burned. His father died when Malcolm was just 6 years old, in what many believed to be a racially motivated killing, though it was labeled a streetcar accident. His mother's mental health deteriorated under the weight of poverty and trauma, and eventually she was institutionalized. Malcolm and his siblings were scattered into foster homes. From a young age, he felt abandoned by society, by the system, and by life itself. At school, Malcolm was bright, but when he told a teacher he wanted to be a lawyer, he was dismissed. "That's no realistic goal for AN." These words crushed his spirit. He dropped out, feeling education was closed to him. Instead, he turned to the streets. By his teenage years, Malcolm moved to Boston, then New York, where he became Detroit Red, a hustler immersed in the nightlife of Harlem. Gambling, drugs, women, and crime became his world. He worked as a shoe shiner at clubs, ran hustles, and even dabbled in dealing drugs. With his reddish hair, sharp suits, and fast talk, he became well known in the underground world. But this life had consequences. In 1946, at just 20 years old, Malcolm was arrested for burglary and sentenced to 10 years in prison. It was in prison that his transformation began. Malcolm entered prison an angry, bitter man, but the walls that confined him became the walls that redefined him. It was here he discovered the power of words, knowledge, and faith. Fellow inmates nicknamed him Satan because of his hostility to religion, but then came letters from his siblings introducing him to the teachings of the Nation of Islam NOI, a movement led by Elijah Muhammad. They told him, "Malcolm, stop eating pork, stop smoking, stop drinking. You not really and you are one of the lost tribes of Islam." The idea fascinated him. He began corresponding with Elijah Muhammad, who encouraged him to purify himself, to learn discipline, and to seek God. Malcolm threw himself into reading. He devoured books from the prison library: history, philosophy, religion. He later said, "People don't realize how a man's whole life can be changed by one book." He copied the dictionary word for word, page after page, to improve his handwriting and vocabulary. From this hunger for knowledge emerged the Malcolm who could debate, inspire, and lead with the power of his voice. By the time he left prison in 1952, he was no longer Detroit Red. He was Malcolm X, the X symbolizing the unknown African name stolen from his ancestors by slavery. Malcolm quickly rose through the ranks of the Nation of Islam. His charisma, discipline, and fiery oratory drew thousands. He became Elijah Muhammad's most powerful minister, opening mosques across the country and attracting countless new members. He preached about black pride, self-sufficiency, and the evils of white supremacy. His words cut deep. "We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us." For many black Americans, Malcolm's message was electrifying. He gave voice to their anger, their pain, and their longing for dignity. He was bold, unafraid, and unapologetic. But his fiery rhetoric also brought him enemies from the US government, from mainstream media, and even from within the black community. Still, America could not ignore him. But Malcolm was also a seeker of truth, and over time he began to see contradictions in the Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad, whom he revered as a prophet-like figure, was exposed in scandals, accused of fathering children with multiple secretaries. Malcolm struggled with disillusionment. His heart longed for something purer, something beyond race and politics. Allah was guiding him toward a greater truth. In 1964, Malcolm broke away from the Nation of Islam. He founded Muslim Mosque Inc., seeking to follow true Islam. That same year, he embarked on a life-changing journey, the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Makkah. What he experienced in Makkah transformed him completely. Surrounded by Muslims of every race, color, and nation, he saw with his own eyes the brotherhood of Islam, white and black, Arab and African, Asian and European, all praying side by side in equality. For a man who had spent his life fighting the poison of racism, this was a revelation. In a letter from Mecca, he wrote, "There were tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans, but we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood that my experiences in America had led me to believe never could exist between the white and the non-white." This was the Malcolm X the world had never seen. Humble, reflective, spiritual. He embraced Sunni Islam, adopting the name al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. He no longer preached hate or racial superiority. Instead, he preached the universal message of Islam, submission to Allah, justice, and brotherhood. When Malcolm returned to America, he was a changed man. He still spoke against injustice and oppression, but his message carried a new light. He no longer saw the struggle as black versus white, but as truth versus falsehood, justice versus injustice. He reached out to leaders across Africa and the Muslim world, building alliances and envisioning a global struggle for human rights. His transformation threatened many. The Nation of Islam turned against him. The US government watched him closely. Enemies surrounded him. Yet Malcolm continued to speak with courage. He said, "I am for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it's for or against." He was a man America could not break, because his strength no longer came from anger, it came from faith. On February 21, 1965, at just 39 years old, Malcolm X was assassinated while preparing to address a crowd in New York. His death shocked the world, but his message lived on. To this day, millions draw strength from his journey from the streets to prison, from hate to truth, from Malcolm Little to Malcolm X, and finally to al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, servant of Allah. Malcolm's story is more than history. It is a lesson for us all. He showed us that no matter how dark your past, Allah can guide you to the light. He showed us that Islam is not a religion of race, but of unity. And he showed us that courage in speaking truth is a duty, even if it costs your life. The Quran says, "Indeed, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves." Chapter 13, verse 11. Malcolm changed what was within himself, from crime to discipline, from anger to wisdom, from hatred to faith, and Allah changed his condition, raising him as a symbol for generations. This was the journey of a man America could not break, a man whose faith gave him unshakable strength. Malcolm X's conversion to Islam remains one of the greatest stories of transformation in modern history, and it reminds us all the truth is out there for those who seek it, and Allah guides whom He wills.